All right, today we're going to talk about a painting that, on the surface, seems almost impossibly simple, but it's also one of the most radical, most influential, and, honestly, most controversial works of art ever made. We're talking about Kazimir Malevich's Black Square.
And I know exactly what you're thinking, because everybody thinks it. A black square on a white canvas? That's it? How in the world can that be so important? It's a totally fair question, and trust me, we are going to answer it.
You see, the Black Square isn't really just a painting you look at. It's more like a puzzle you have to solve. And once you start putting the pieces together, you see how Malevich basically blew the doors off what art was even allowed to be.
Okay, so let's just get right into it. On the surface, yeah, it's exactly what it looks like. But underneath that simple exterior, Malevich was pretty much declaring war on centuries of art history. This wasn't a picture of a thing. This was a statement. It was a manifesto just written in paint.
And to really get that manifesto, you gotta understand the guy who wrote it. Because this wasn't some amateur just splashing paint around. No, this was a very deliberate choice made by a master artist who was at the absolute top of his game.
So, who was Kazimir Malevich? Well, he was born in Kyiv back in 1879 and was deeply connected to his Ukrainian cultural roots. He started out teaching himself and, this is the really important part, he worked his way through and totally mastered a bunch of the major art styles of his day before he ever got to the Black Square.
And this slide just says it all right. Just look at this. On the left, you've got this incredibly complex, high-energy Cuba futurist piece. Then, on the right, these powerful, simplified figures. This is a guy with serious skills. He could paint anything he wanted. He chose to paint a black square. That choice is everything.
And that choice, that very deliberate choice, was basically the start of a revolution. Malevich wanted to hit a giant reset button on all of art. He wanted to bring everything crashing back to what he called the 0 hour.
So he actually founded his own art movement to do it, and he called it Supremacism. The whole idea is right there in the name. The supremacy of pure artistic feeling over trying to paint something that looks like a tree or a person. He believed art didn't need to copy the world anymore. It could be its own thing, built from the most basic stuff, just shape and color.
Malevich himself called the Black Square the 0 of form. Just think about that for a second. It's not just a painting of a shape, it's supposed to be ground zero, the absolute starting point. A totally clean slate for a new kind of art, completely free from the baggage of history.
Now, when Malevich finally showed this 0 point to the world, he didn't just casually hang it on a wall. Nope. The way he presented it was just as revolutionary as the painting itself.
So, picture this. The year is 1915. The place is this big avant-garde art show in Petrograd, what's now St. Petersburg, called the 010 Exhibition. And right in the middle of all these other wild paintings, Malevich does something that nobody could possibly ignore.
He hung the black square way up high, right in the corner of the room. Now, this was not a random spot. In a traditional Orthodox home, that exact spot is called the red corner, and it's the sacred place where the family keeps its religious icons for prayer.
So, what he was doing was unbelievably provocative. He was taking the space that was reserved for God, for the holy, and he was putting his painting there. He was screaming to the world, this is the new icon. The new religion isn't about the divine anymore. It's about pure art, pure feeling. It was a huge, almost blasphemous statement to make.
But believe it or not, the story gets even wilder. Because if you look really, really closely at the physical painting itself, the Black Square is hiding some incredible secrets.
So, for starters, it's not a perfect machine-drawn square. The sides are a little wobbly, which gives it this subtle human energy. Also, it's not actually pure black paint. It's a mix of different dark pigments. And over the last century, the paint has started to crack, creating this amazing web across the surface. But here's the kicker. X-rays have shown that he actually painted it on top of at least 2 other, more colorful paintings. That 0 point was literally painted over a past he was trying to cancel out.
The painting's power definitely endured, but it also made him a target. By the 1930s, the Soviet government hated abstract art, and they went after Malevich for it. But you couldn't kill the idea. When Malevich died in 1935, his students put a black square on his coffin and on his gravestone. It was the ultimate symbol of his revolution. And you can see how that idea just never left him. Even when the government kind of forced him to go back to painting people later in his life, you can still feel the black square in the work. Look at how he builds these figures out of simple, powerful geometric blocks. That 0 point had permanently changed his artistic DNA.
So what's the big takeaway here? The black square matters because it was so much more than just paint on a canvas. It was a breakthrough idea. It was a declaration that art doesn't have to be a pretty picture of something. Art can just be an idea. It can be an experience. It can be a pure feeling.
And in the end, it leaves us with this huge, powerful question that artists are still trying to answer today. If the whole point of art is to communicate a feeling or an idea, does it actually need to look like anything at all?